Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the seventh episode of the ICA Cricket Show. As always, up until now, I'm Satish Vishwanathan, your host. Quite proud to bring this show to you by the Indian Cricketers Association. We've had some pretty interesting chats thus far. And going with the panel that we have today, I see more interesting times ahead. As you will all be aware, the Indian team pulled off a miraculous win on Monday in the Lord's Test. They could well have been 2-0 up in the series, the 5-test series, if not for the rain on the final day at Trent Bridge. This was only second time in Test history that a side has declared post-launch and still won. Incredible. I mean, this is something that is great fun while it is going on. To discuss the famous win and more, let me now welcome and introduce our three-member panel for today's show. Firstly, I would like to welcome Kanitkar, a hardened Indian pro from Maharashtra, who has lent his talent and frank cricketing brain to more than one state side. Rishi, welcome to the ICA Cricket Show.
Thank you, Satish. Thanks.
Rishi is now obviously a former Indian cricketer, a stylish left-handed batsman, was with the ICA as India under-19 batting coach. I know that fatherhood takes up most of your time these days, Rishi, so appreciate your taking time off.
Pleasure.
Next up is Subramaniam, a left-arm spinner from Tamil Nadu. The former Indian team manager. He just reminded me recently that he was the manager of India's 2018 tour of England. No, he didn't claim to be the man behind Virat Kohli's great form on that tour, but he sure can tell us a lot about how this Indian team thinks and functions. Sunil, who was at the TNC Academy, just happens to have, over the years, coached a certain Ravichandra Ashwin. Sunil, I'm sure you'll have something to say on Ashwin. Not figuring in the 11 thus far. We know there are good reasons too. But for now, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Satish.
Great. Our third guest, Andhra's Amit Pathak, currently serving the game as the referee. A right-hand batsman at 75 first-class games for Andhra. Amit is a level B coach, but and he also was at the NCA earlier. But while he continues to play the role of a mentor to a number of aspiring young cricketers, he is now fully into his role as match referee. Welcome to Amit.
Thank you, Satish.
I didn't realize, it came to me suddenly that all three of you have a connection. Amit is now based in Chennai. Sunil, of course, is hardcore Chennai. And Rishi, you have coached Chennai, Tamil Nadu. So, I didn't realize this when we were setting up the meet.
Yeah.
Okay, let me start with you, Rishi. Let me start with you. You've been part of the Indian team before, seen your ups and downs of the team's performances. Where would you rate this Lord's victory?
I think it's right up there. One of the best wins, I think. And what Indian teams were known for were that they were very strong at home. They traveled, they were not that good. And this team just proven, they've won in Australia, they've won in England, they've come back against great odds and won games. So I think this victory and this team is, I think it's a team that other countries really fear playing.
That's a huge change. So, you obviously were part of the setup, for 2 full years. This change of the word Rishi used, people now fear the Indian team. I would like to overall assessment of the Lord's Test, but also on this topic, I wanted to address the comments made by KL Rahul. You will know where this came from. He said that someone goes after one of our players, just the 10 guys get really pumped as well. And, we'll take a step back.
Fortunately, I came into the Indian team when the overseas tour started. My first tour was Sri Lanka. And that was a tour where I was observing the culture there, more than doing anything, adding value to it. Then came the South Africa tour. Then came the Australia tour. Then came the England tour, the New Zealand tour, the West Indies tour, and the World Cup. Now I could see a certain work ethic in this team. Virat being a very strong believer in fitness, not more than fitness, strength. It's something like what the West Indies did. He had a very clear blueprint. It's his vision. that if you need to win overseas, you need to have 5 fast bowlers firing even on the 5th test, the last day of a test, which is a big ask. We've been having good fast bowlers earlier, but if you would see by the time the series wore on, the potency was kind of dwindling. Now, Virat set the bar, and the trainer Basu, I mean, full credit to him. And it's actually a brainchild of Virat, but the man who executed that was Shankar Basu, who put in a certain fitness protocol, which was hard at first for others to digest, even the team. But what it did was it kept the fast bowlers as potent as you could find anywhere in the world. The fast bowling coaching was anyway being done by Arun, and Arun had handled all these boys from under 19 stage. So there was a comfort level between the bowlers and the bowling coach. But the fitness part of it, which I think was instrumental, that even in the last test, any last test we play equally as potent. Rishi was saying that we were not touring all that well. Let me tell you, in 2018 when we lost 4-1 to England, we lost all the tosses, and every game we were in the game till the last day. It's somewhere there that we're losing the game. If you look at the South African tour, the last test in Johannesburg is possibly one of the best tests that I've been a manager of. I mean, you could to come back at that stage and then to win and take 8 wickets in one session. I think the belief started from that victory in this group. I know they had won earlier there, but for this group, the belief started there. England was a learning curve, 2018. What happened in Australia in 2019, people forget now, they're talking about this tour, but the foundation for this victory lay in that tour, and they were the first side to beat Australia in Australia. Yeah, they were without Smith and Warner. But my assessment was the way we were playing, it wouldn't have made much of a difference. It really wouldn't have. They were psychologically on the back foot.
Both did come back the next series and we still won. So
they would take some. To answer that, it started from the South African tour. And I still remember a team meeting after we lost the first test in Cape Town, we should have won. I mean, that was an eye-opener with both Virat and Ravi telling exactly where we stood and what the team needed to do. It started from there. And from there, ever since I've left after the West Indies tour, this has gone, our victories, earlier there were victories, but now they're producing miracles. Now, when you found the test match that they won at Gabba, and who would have thought a complete set of rookies, I mean, forced the hands, they couldn't play their cards because of COVID protocol, people can't be called. They had to manage with what's available. But what came through was a certain spirit. Certain spirit that we simply weren't given. And this is where Ravi's man management has to come in. I mean, I've seen him taking a lot of ticker in social media. They simply don't understand the kind of spirit that has been inculcated in this Indian team. I've been a part of few dressing rooms, zone teams, almost for India. But those days, they had this senior, a lot of fundas were there, where the mind wasn't completely at ease, that you're there because you're a good guy. I mean, you're there because professionally you're good. What belief Ravi and Co, this management have done, is to instill that belief in everyone, that you are there in this team because you're the best that there is. Then what has happened, with the kind of touring that takes place so often, they spend about 200 to 250 days together. In fact, the time spent with each other, now it's become a family. And I'm sure after this COVID protocol has come through with absolute no interaction with the outside world, it's really become a fabulously well-knit unit where you can leave out the best spinner in the world. Yeah. When he's actually bowled the WTC Championship finals, he bowled well. When you can leave him out and still produce an attack, that is as good as what it is. And honestly, professionally, the guys left out will be, I mean, you can ask any professional cricketer, they would feel a little sad they're left out. But the joy they get in the team winning far exceeds their personal issues of whether you're in the team or not in the team. That's the kind of spirit that this management has inculcated in this team.
All right. Amit, obviously the bowling is, this test was more of, the pacers, both with the ball, the pacers with the bat. There was a bit where you said that in the next test, India should play 11 fast bowlers in order to strengthen the batting. I mean, this is the kind of stuff. But, I mean, as a batsman yourself, it's quite a KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma. I mean, what they've done in this both the first test and the second test. They did
Absolutely.
set up the thing, right? With the platform. I know people like Srinath and Anil earlier used to beg for scores of, 350, close to 350 on away tours. But these two guys in these English conditions, and whenever they're batted in difficult conditions. For them to come through, Amit, great feat.
Absolutely, sir. Actually, the kind of play they've been doing all this while, the T20s and the one days they've been playing, they have a different setup there and a different kind of game. But it was really pleasing to watch both Rahul and Rohit go back to the conventional form of the game, playing close to the body, respecting the good balls, waiting for the loose balls to punish them, and hanging out at the crease. Especially in the second test, the kind of grit and determination they have shown and the solidity in batting. It was really a treat to watch.
I mean, that's something that unimaginable because they started this series, Rushi. These two are not supposed, the least pair who were supposed to open would have been Rohit and Rahul because for some reason they started talking about Rahul as a middle order bat. I don't know how true that is, but he did, even in the 3-day game, he did go to the middle order. But the middle order itself, Rushi, where do how do you look at this current middle order? I know Rahane and Pujara came through in the second innings. Uh, Obviously, they had to bat at a certain pace, circumstances. But was it ideal? And what do you make of this current middle order? Are we looking at changes in the near future?
I think the middle order is all right. I don't think it's my judgment that they won't change the middle order right now. Because like you said, Rahane and Pujara have both scored a few runs now. So it'll be good for the team as well. Having said that, starting from the opening, it's the mindset, isn't it? You're playing in England. Rohit, stroke player, very natural stroke player, instinctive stroke player, but their mind is working very well. They're focused on what they want to do. They know what type of players they are. KL Rahul, I think, amazing batting because he was in control of all his faculties, not getting carried away, leaving the ball as much as was needed, rotating the strike, playing long time, staying long periods at the crease, all these basic things which maybe, players were doing for the last 100 years, they've done in these two test matches. And it's shown because they've given a good start to the innings more times than not. And doing that in England is not very easy with the bowling that England have with Anderson, Broad, and all these guys. They're really top class bowlers. Conditions are challenging. So when one of the openers gets out, it may be 80 for 1 at that stage or 120 for 1. But when the new batsman comes in, it's always difficult in England to begin an innings. That's why once you start your innings, it's very important to carry on. That's where KL Rahul, I think, has done a superb job. What Root is doing for England. Once he gets set, he is just batting and batting and batting. And that's basic cricket. It's not a revolutionary or anything. But to do that, you really need to be in a space in your mind where you're in control of everything you're doing. Your thoughts, your routines, everything has to be congruent, And this shows that it is congruent for the openers for sure. Now, Pujara's got a few runs. That's a good sign for India. I think the middle order will do well. They have a few more test matches. They'll prepare well for the next one. My main issue is the mind. If the mind can be controlled in such challenging, situations, then you can be judicious about how you want to play. And then your body listens to what your mind says. The bat doesn't suddenly just follow the ball and nick the ball. So I think that's a lot of work that goes on here. I'm sure all the other batsmen are doing it as well. So I'm pretty confident there's no need to change the middle order, but maybe how they play, how they approach, how they begin their innings, what they can do to cut down the risks. All these things will matter.
Yeah, I get that. Sunil, you want to say something?
See, I agree with what Rishi is saying as far as the mind is concerned. Now, I have issues. I have issues because I'll be very honest. I'm not one bit surprised at the way the bowling unit is playing and getting it back every game. But I have issues with the batting. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
You look at the recent past, whenever the ball is moved, be it in New Zealand, be it in England, We haven't lasted more than 65, 70 overs at best. We really haven't. I'll tell you a couple of reasons also which is happening in England. I had spoken to the previous captain Cook. Now, one of my jobs was as a manager was every morning to go and before a game begins to find out what is the extent of grass on the wicket. Would you believe the amount of grass they left in every test match that we played in England? It was 8 mm to 13 mm grass. Ever since Broad and Anderson came, and mind you, earlier they used to play even with the Reader's ball. The Duke's ball and 8 to 13 mm grass ensured that your challenges are going to be humongous, regardless of who the opener are, Indian openers or the opposition openers. But whenever we have played where the ball moves in the air or seems off the wicket, technically, and the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I've been pleasantly surprised in this series that the work the openers have put in. But this is just a surprise. It will remain a surprise. Because look at what have you got now. We have won this test match. I have a problem with number 3 consuming so many balls because the more balls you consume make it more tougher for people down the line to come. I don't mean he's solid. Pujara did a solid job in Australia where the ball bounced. It didn't seam and swing much. So consuming the number of balls, a few balls will come with the runs when you can up the run rate as innings go on. In England or in New Zealand, you were never really there. One ball is going to get you. Really, it's got a name on you. So a little more, you got to get the singles, push the rotate the strike more, see that you get a certain amount of lead. This is the theory part. But what are your options? Your options in the middle order in this team are Surya Kumar Yadav and Hanuma Vihari. Hanuma has got a similar game to what Pujara has got. Possibly in my mind, he's one of the best equipped technically to leave balls. But at number 3, we possibly need somebody who can stay, knows where the off stump is, has a little bit of luck, but scores a little sooner. Options are not many. The other is Surya Kumar Yadav. Surya Kumar Yadav is fabulously balanced of both front foot and back foot. What little we have seen him in international cricket and years of domestic cricket, he's sound as you can get. But we still don't know about the moving ball. So I would not look at any changes for the next test. Let's not forget, next test is at Headingley. Headingley is reputedly of all the test grounds in England, which favors swing and seam bowling the most. The challenges are going to be possibly a little more in Headingley. So why would you want, unless injury beckons, you wouldn't want to disturb this combination, which can build from what it has done the last test. But technically and mentally, Rishi, I've seen these guys, they're at the top. I mean, these guys, their minds are there. They're probably the most focused minds you will get, as good as we can get. I have an issue with a generation that is bred on T20 cricket who doesn't play with soft hands. They invariably go towards earlier on to look at the earlier generation too, they went, but somehow they stuck around longer. Somehow there was an inbuilt, you could say because of the conditions we grew in, there was an inbuilt patience in us that even if you look ugly, chalega, dodega, we'll somehow see a session. That element, sadly so, the environment today does not permit, so the guys really don't know. This is where my issue is. If they can see that out, we should be able to get our 270s and 300s for the bowling attack to be a potent force. I just want that middle order to be a little more forceful, get a little more early runs. For example, the last test, the first test, if you remember, partnership on the third innings, which they batted third. Between 70th and 85th over, Sam Curran and Joe Root played. You're looking at options, right? So if we have something there, some guy who can bat there and push the runs along. If we had got those runs quickly, we possibly wouldn't be chasing 200 on the last day. 150 on the last day. We are 50 up on the fourth night. We may have possibly been chasing an overall of 100 runs. So this is one thing that, the batsman who can grind in there, look ugly, yet survive 2 sessions, and then capitalize in the last sessions is what I'm really looking for my eyes to open and say, yeah, I think they're turning the corner. So far, what has come is a huge surprise, but when that happens, yeah.
Yeah, what I feel is it's even more important for this team, the more experienced players like Rane, Pujara, obviously Virat, and the openers, one of them at least, is on the pitch when the younger guys come in, like you said, and they'll definitely need a lot of talking to in the middle. What happens outside in the team meetings and, off the
That's
ground doesn't matter when you go in.
correct.
So at that time, you need somebody who's been there, who's gone through all those feelings, who's gone through the urge of trying to hit it out when probably they were younger. So you need somebody who's established to be there with a youngster. And when that happens for a period of time, maybe a few series, this younger guy will then be able to learn. Because right now, the way cricket is played, the T20 game, the way it is rewarding and all the perks that come with it, all the players, most of them, the younger ones are invested in that. And what people learnt in Ranji Trophy earlier, these guys are not able to, because that's how they play in Ranji as well. And on good pitches, or if they get on, they'll really score well. So they don't really, like you said, they don't really know how to grind, how to do certain things which they are not used to doing. And I think the best way for them to learn now is looking at the guy opposite them. If he's somebody who's established and who knows how to do the what do you call it, the unattractive things, just grind it out, play balls, leave balls, things like that. I think that will make a big difference. So it's important for the established players to be around in the middle, so that it's an automatic transfer of knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah, I guess there, it's very simple. You all have to look at somebody like Rohit Sharma. I mean, the way he's adapted. I mean, he's not played three-day cricket and longer form of cricket. He's played a lot of domestic cricket earlier. But the fact that you just have to look at him adapting, taking his time, not the way he leaves the ball outside the off turn, the kind of patience.
And that's
what a youngster looks at it. He has a perfect example.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
that's where
there's something bigger.
that's where the control on your mind comes. You get out and you shouldn't be saying, "Arey bat chala gaya yaar." Bat shouldn't be going like that in Test cricket. It's as simple as that. It'll happen, definitely happen to everyone, because you get tricked. The bowler also has a lot of expertise, so he's going to make you play false shots. But playing a false shot is fine, but the bat just going away, what you haven't planned, if it happens, then that's something you need to work on.
Yeah, where are your legs? Where are your body placed when the ball leaves you? You got to be sure that has to be a static position, whether you get out or whether you play, whether you get your runs. Rohit in the World Cup got 500s. Let's not forget that. English conditions. So with him, I'm not looking at 80s. With him, we're looking at big hundreds. When he gets a big 100 going, then you're talking. By the time with care doing what he's doing, then the middle order comes into bat and it's about 70, 60 overs old. Then you're looking at a different game from there. Hopefully it happens. Hopefully we should get one.
Yeah.
Probably it's a good thought for the batsmen, to just tune up their minds. Maybe talk to themselves and tell what to do rather than what not to do. I personally feel there is too much of talk about these guys. Most of our top order guys are not able to leave the ball well or poking at the ball. I guess probably if they go in with a mindset, of playing the stump balls rather than thinking more about, leaving the balls, that would be a better option for them.
If you don't say what to leave the ball, you would have scored any runs.
Yeah, you tell your mind not to do something, it ends up doing that. Rather, if you tell your mind just to play the stump balls, you're automatically going to be leaving the outside the off stump balls. I know it's easy to say that, but yeah, both Pujara and Rahane and Kohli, they're all world beaters and test specialists, so they themselves know that well. It's happening. It's happened in a couple of innings now, but I really bank on them still. And seeing Pujara's and Rahane's records overseas, I think they're still a better bet.
Yeah,
what batsmen usually do is before the game, after assessing the risk that they may be facing from the bowlers as well as the pitch, they'll decide what shots to play on a certain pitch and what shots not to play beforehand. Though you play shots instinctively in Test cricket, you should know on a certain pitch what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. So once that is fed into him, it could be, I'm not going to. Sachin Tendulkar scored a double hundred in Sydney, not playing anything through the offside because they were bowling. They wanted to bowl there to him and get him out there or keep him quiet. He waited for them to bowl into his pads, and he's somebody who could play all around the ground. So that's what I'm talking about. You have to decide your strengths, based on your strengths, and based on what you feel is not working for you at that time. Maybe I'm a very good cover driver, but it's not happening in England. Maybe I have to shut that down and play my other shots, which are going to give me runs. So what Amit said is absolutely right. You need to find a medium where you can attack and where you have it in your control to just, go back into a shell, by which I mean not do things which you have planned not to do.
Again,
It's all
Satish,
about the way you plan your innings, and then, yeah, obviously the expertise is in doing it actually. So that comes later in the middle.
So, Amit, I want to get in the, a lot of, we're talking about the mind, things like that. There was a lot of mental disintegration that happened in this test when you got into Jimmy Anderson. With your match referee hat on, when does the situation go overboard? When does it go? When is it uncontrollable? When does the match referee step in? What happens?
And the kind of cricket these guys are playing nowadays, especially the test cricket, it was quite evident that something was going on unless it is reported and unless by the umpires, or if it becomes a bit too physical, there is nothing a referee can do in the middle. It has to be too obvious. Now, what discussion happened? What was the argument? Unless there is evidence, there is nothing much a referee can do. Obviously, the umpires there on the ground, they are totally in control of the game and they are supposed to handle the situation there.
Sunil, I want to bring you on the same point. This aggressiveness of the Indian team, is it bordering? I mean, if it's bordering on the over aggressive, it's fine. But is it very much on the line? How do you rate this? How do you judge this?
two ways to look at it. See, one is what a team culture is, or what the management thinks. Second is, are you the instigator or are you reacting?
Mm-hmm.
My studied opinion is Indians are never the instigators. We react. When we get something, earlier on, we were not quite, see, you need a certain personality to actually give it back and yet not be penalized, yet not go overboard by the match referee, the umpire at the ground sees it. So this team, Virat has the personality where he can give it back. So I don't think we are instigating it. There are certain times when I feel a little less of the adrenaline and the testosterone may help, but that is the me, that is the spectator, and that is the us sitting outside feeling. But my feel of this team is the team feeds off it. The team seems this team seems far more comfortable with the idea of giving it back. They seem to know how to give it back. At times, yes, at times it can get a little nervy, but pretty much fine because nobody yet has been pulled up for it in the Indian team in a big way. They've learned to give it back. And as I said, we are not the instigators. When we give it back as good as we get. I don't see much of a problem as long as the match referee and the umpires in the field won't have an issue reporting it.
In fact, the spat between Bumrah and Anderson, I wouldn't say a spat, the argument they had, it really paid off for the Indian team, especially Bumrah and Shami. Yeah, the kind of partnership they put on, both Bumrah and Shami, and then coming back with the ball, with full cylinders. It was, it really actually helped us, pull up a little and, give it back with the ball rather than with the words. It was really pleasing to see that both these guys gave it with the bat and then again gave it back with the ball. So that's what cricket is all about, rather than speaking, you can.
See, it's a tough game at the highest level and you've got to cop a bit of it.
Yeah. And the best way to give it back is with the ball or with the bat rather than, saying words which are not required. And they did it.
Really, which is what I mean. We don't instigate. I have not seen this team instigate. They only reacted. If somebody gives it, we react to it.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you, Sunil.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about, Sunil, you mentioned this briefly in your opening thing. The backroom staff. And Rishi did mention that, once you step out of the field, then all the coaching, everything goes on. It's what the batsman does there, he takes a call. But how much does, the backroom staff, what kind of, especially on the mental makeup, something like a Ravi, a bowling coach, Bharat, What kind of input do they give these players? How do they handle these guys? And that makes them the team that this is. We have to give credit to the backroom staff, obviously.
Certain credit, yes. See, as he said, as Rishi is saying, this is more at a subconscious level. All the training that you do, it's at your subconscious level. Once you get in there, but you train your subconscious to such a manner that it gets into your instinct, if you know what I mean. So when you go there, when you go onto the center, what is technique? Technique is nothing but a certain activity refined so that the instinct at which you see the ball, you get 0.5 of a second to see a ball and react to it. Your technique helps your instinct to safeguard your wicket. That is the role of technique. Beyond that, you can't be a slave to technique. And the guys at that level aren't. They do a lot of work that happens before a game begins. But once you get into the center, he's right, it's your instinct, your judgment. You have played the game, say, before, for example, before they meet this backroom staff, they would have played with many backroom staffs by the time they come here. Right? So which means their influence is there, plus these guys have got their own game. There is now a certain synergy. Earlier on, there wasn't much synergy between what was told at, say, at Ranji Trophy or under 19 to what is being said at Test level. We are still not quite there, but there seems a synergy where they're talking the same language. So by which time the guy comes into the Indian setup, it's not a different language, that a different thing. He's not to say that he's not reinventing the wheel. They are speaking more or less the same language. The difference here is the stature. For example, somebody like Ravi, he may not have coaching certificates. Honestly, at that level, you don't require, if you're the cricket director or the head coach, what you require is your man management skills, not really coaching skills. It's about motivating them. It's about the subtle things that you say. Subtle things when you find out and have
that's exactly what I was referring to, Sunil. How do they manage that part?
That is where Ravi's man management skills are top class. But the real technical work in the lot is the bowling coach. I've seen Arun's work, and he has been my boss too at the JNC Academy. I've seen the work he puts in with bowlers. That is real technical work that takes place in hours and hours of watching videos, assessing your bowling action, which happens when they were there at the NCA. But when they come, the same coach, when he travels with the team, it's more about the conditions you get there. It's more about how you can be the best version of yourself, rather than an evaluation of one's technique. Plenty of hours are spent there in doing that. The same thing happens with the fielding coach, and the same thing happens with the batting coach. But that is a part of the subconscious. And believe me, the work that has been done in that is extensive. And I see a synergy that's taking place from first-class cricket to what is being spoken. What is the substance in the meetings at that level? They are more or less, it's a gradual climb. It's not something that they are reinventing the wheel.
Rishi, you wanted to say something, Rishi?
Yes, backroom staff, they've been with the team for quite some time now. So like Sunil was saying, this team is like a family. So that includes the staff as well. They know each other very, very well on and off the field. So that develops a level of trust, both sides, which helps when backroom staff wants to convey something to the players. Now, during the match scenarios, obviously you can't work too much on technique and get into technical aspects and such. So there's often very small cues which a bowling coach, a batting coach, whoever, any coach could give the player, which might get the player realigned or refocused or, focusing on what he needs to. And those cues may not be even anything to do with, any technique. It could be something like you as a bowler, your run-up seems a little sluggish. Now, you might say this to one bowler, but to another bowler, you might have to tell him in a different way, the same point. So, just one word here, a cue there, these things will make a difference at this level. Everyone knows what the technique is, how the bowling action, ideal bowling action is, or how to bat, how the backlift should be and all those points. But what works is that one word where you get into his mind and tell him, maybe it could be something like, just keep telling yourself to watch the ball to a batsman. Now, this is something batsmen usually do, but sometimes it goes off. You know, you have so many things to think about and do that focusing your mind, telling your mind, pointing your mind to watch the ball from the bowler's hand goes back in the list of priorities. It's something like that. If I know a batsman as a batting coach, and I think just by telling him that one thing, it might not be that thing that he wants to know to play well. But by giving him something he can do every ball, it'll take off his mind from other problems that he might have in mind.
Perfect.
So if I tell a batsman, watch the ball closely, in doing that, he'll forget about, oh, I got beaten 3 times outside off stump. He'll just tell himself, oh, yes, I have to watch the ball. And invariably, one ball at a time, it slowly starts getting better. So I
No,
think
here,
cues
I
and
want to add,
trust is going to be very important, and the team has it. They absolutely are on the same plane when, you know, they
that's the point I wanted to make. It's the trust between the guy who's telling you and the player who's absorbing that. Today we have come to that level where the trust is there with guys from within the country. And I mean it. Indians can do it. Earlier we did not have this structure where you could get in there and get your place. Now we have a structure where they're believing that, say for example, Mr. X from New Zealand says, or Mr. Y from Australia says, earlier that was the gospel. So for some reason, we had that. Now it isn't so. It's our guys are able to do it. The same words are being told by us, and the reaction is, it is being absorbed. So I think we are now, our structure is now getting ready to have homegrown coaches who can handle this team.
I get that. I mean,
that's from the NCA, you know, the work that's going on there, coach development and stuff like that. I think it's fabulous, and that's showing as well with this team, because Bharat and Shri and all these guys were with NCA at one point of time, long time back. But, you know, they've worked in that atmosphere and it's really working well now.
yeah, I mean, we're talking about backroom staff. We should not forget what the BCCI itself is doing. There's a lot of things that's going on that's brought this change about, you know, that's something that they don't get enough credit for. Sunil, I have to come to this particular thing. Ashwin, now with you there, I got to ask you this. I got a message from a friend of mine, former college cricketer, who is now in Melbourne. He says, I mean, he also understands, he himself is an offie, he also understands why Ashwin was left out. But he says it's like Australia dropping Shane Warne to make space for Kasparovich or Andy Bickle. And, you know, there's a point there. But we know the situation, and it also takes guts to drop a guy like that. That's something that this team has done, you know, time and again, dropping some big guys. So your take on this, Sunil, as
I really wish to speak on that, because I've earlier given in print the same thing you have said. It's some of the newspapers carried out that could you drop Murli? But here is my point. Now, guts most guys have. Do you have the resources, and do you know they can deliver? Now look at it from this point of view. Yeah, you're saying that would you drop Warne? Well, Warne was dropped for 2 test matches in the Australia tour to West Indies. Now let's take Murli's case, which is more akin to what you've got. So they see a bowling attack has got various parts: 3 fast bowlers, 2 spinners, 3 fast bowlers. That's a combo. Or 4 fast bowlers, 1 spinner. Let's take an Asian team, Sri Lanka. Would you drop Murli? Now, I've been dwelling on this. If suppose I had an attack that had Lasith Malinga, Chaminda Vas, Rumesh Ratnaike, Asanta Dimel, and Dushmanta Chamira at their best. Let's say that was the attack you had. And you're playing a test in England. Surely it will cross my mind that option exists. And if I have a Kumar Dharmasena who can do the job, and the job is only going to be, spinner's job is going to be only 10 overs, 8 overs, the situation may very well arise if the captain is convinced that Murli could be dropped for a certain game. It is not saying anything about Murli's capabilities or Ashwin's capabilities. We know it's world class. But this team has evolved to that extent where you have the resources, where you can still afford not to take a guy in the playing 11 who's currently the world's best spinner, and in my mind, one of India's all-time greats, well on the way to it. We have the resources there where, given the conditions, this may seem a better option. This is as far as dropping him is concerned, dropping your best spinner is concerned. I had a different take though on the first test. See, it's starting from the World Test Championship. It was very clear that all the 5 days is going to rain. Now, I don't know why we played 2 spinners. We could have played 4 fast bowlers and 1 spinner. That struck me as pretty bizarre. You could have played 4. That was a wrong combo. The first spinner was still Ashwin. What follows after that is the next game. He's played a county game, got 6 wickets, he's prepared himself well and come. But I would still understand. Now this comes to not just him being the best, how well is he bowling? He's really bowling well. Ashwin is really bowling well. That be the case. In the first test, we have taken, the team decides that, okay, right, our batting at the top might be brittle, it's a new condition, so we need insurance down the line. Number six, that Pant is there, then we need an all-rounder. So they freeze him on Jadeja, who's been batting well there. Now, having come to that, now you look at your bowlers. What is your bowling combo you have? If you're going with 4 fast bowlers, I could still understand Ashwin having to sit out if Ishant was your 4th fast bowler. In any case, if you're having 4 fast bowlers, you can ask any captain, one of them will be underbowled. 3 of them will do the lion's share. And if you look at that first test, Shardul was bowled 26 overs, 13 first, 13 second. 2 wicket first, 2 wicket second. Right? The same job could have been done by an Ashwin. And it really mattered. It's in hindsight. But this is something I thought about it then. On hindsight. Because the partnership that took place from the 80th, when they batted 3rd, I keep coming to that, those 25 overs that they played, 15 overs that they played, made a difference. And one of them was a left-hander. Sam Curran was a left-hander. That 15 overs made a difference. It also made a difference because we got the team out in 65 overs in the first innings. And when they batted second, it took us 20 more overs. Maybe if we had had an off-spinning option then, maybe we wouldn't be chasing this total in the end. This is as far as fitting in is concerned. But on the overall plan, I think what Virat is doing is path-breaking. He is questioning every belief and saying, listen, I have got the resources. I've got the resources where with this, it is a viable option where we win test matches, even if your best spinner isn't playing. On that, I don't seem to have, I'm fully with the vision he's got. But I had that issue in the first test and what happened after the World Test Championship on the team combos.
Rishi, you are putting a hand up to add something?
Yeah, what you always decide, as a captain or as a team management is what's your best 11 for that game, for that pitch, or for that opposition. So considering that, once you get that straight in your mind, okay, this is my best 11, then it's just, part of the game. If you have to drop somebody like Ashwin, it's very tough. He is, like Sunil said, he is on the way to being, if not already, one of the greats. And I know him very well. I've seen how he works at his game, everything. So it's a tough call, but it's if we won the game, so we can say it's the right call. But even if we had lost, sometimes the management feels a certain team is the best team. With hindsight, may not seem so, but this time, it's really done well. Now, that's my whole thing. You go with a clear mind, not with, okay, these players have to be in the team. You don't go like that. You go clean slate, and then what's best for this game for my team? How can we win? What's the best combo? All those things. And then from Ashwin's angle, unfortunate that he has to sit out. But the thing about him is he'll be waiting for that one chance, to get back in the team, and we'll see what he does. Not only with the ball, we keep talking about his bowling, but he's proved again and again about how well he bats as well. So when the time comes, he'll be up for it.
Okay, I get that. Fair enough. Ashwin obviously is not, I don't think he'll figure in at Leeds because you know what kind of pitch is normally laid out there. So we are coming to the end of this, absolutely enthralling chat. But I want to put you guys on the line, starting with you, Amit. What's what's next? What's going to happen in Leeds and the 2 tests to follow? What's your guesstimate?
I'm certainly vouching for a win. The kind of cricket the Indian team is playing now. And they are down and out as per me. As Gavaskar sir has already put, they're just playing with 2.5 players, Root, Anderson, and I don't know who's the half player there. Other than that, the top order has not crossed 15 runs on an average. Yeah, it's only Root who's averaging 100 plus. In bowling, I'm not too sure whether Anderson is going to be playing the next game or no. So, and our guys on top, Rahul, Rohit, they've got a fantastic average. It's time for Kohli, Pant, Pujara, and Rahane to really take it up from there. Lower order is doing great, and in batting and bowling, there's nothing much to worry about. We've got the 4 fast bowlers who are in good nick. That is just keeping things tight there. And probably if they want to go in with a rotation policy, they might just change a fast bowler for another one. I'm not too sure about that. I'm going for India and maybe a 4-day game. You should wind it up in 4 days. That's my take.
In England, the weather will always have a say. Sunil, the other Sunil, Mr. Gavaskar, is from the beginning, he said 4-0. I mean, after the first test was washed out. Otherwise, he had said clean sweep. What's your prediction, Sunil, both for the test coming and the series itself?
To start with, I'm looking at their professional outfit. They've got injury issues and their batting is so brittle it's worse than ours. I mean, it's their own backyard. It's so far been a one-man show. But you have to give it to a side that's been in test cricket for 150 odd years to come back strongly. So I do expect them to come back strong. In fact, I do expect them to win 1 test. Their best chance lies in Headingley. The ball moves. They have to do with the resources they've got. And they've announced their team group. I expect them to come back strong. Oval is something we've always done well. Manchester too will do a bit, but we're looking at September end. That's when I have a feeling Ash might get a game. I'm looking at a riveting series from here and possibly a 2-1 scoreline. 2-1 India winning the series.
Mr. Kanitkar, your call, sir.
I feel so what Sunil says is, Headingley, England, that's one place where they'll fancy their chances against this team. These guys, the English players, they play in this weather all the time. And the thing about Headingley is the pitch behaves a little different when it's sunny and it behaves a little different when the clouds are there. Apart from that, Yorkshire always has a lot of spells of rain, cold weather, all those things. So there's a lot of covers coming on, covers going off, players coming in after 10 minutes, going back again. All these things make a big difference. And England have more practice of all those things. They've played at home a lot more than we have played in England. Having said that, the way our bowling side is performing right now, delivering, I think to be a little cautious how they approach the game. I know we are 1-0 up. We have won a great test match. England are under pressure, but India needs to be on their toes, do the basics very, very well, like they have been doing so far. Even in the bowling, the way they have bowled, it's top class textbook style bowling. Finding areas where you're going to make the batsman uncomfortable, keep persisting, don't give anything away, mix bouncers, test batsmen out, give a bit of verbal. All those things are going to make a difference. What I feel is going to be crucial is for both teams, opening stands. Maybe the number 3 batsman, those stands are going to be very important because it's important to see the ball off, the new ball off. And the team that does that better will have a better chance of getting a decent score on the board, by which they'll, it'll help them to win a game.
All right. There's a fair gap between the 2 tests. So I think that will give the Indian team also enough time to regroup and not, get carried away by the previous result. I'm quite carried away by this show, gentlemen. It was an absolute pleasure having the 3 of you. The views shared, I'm sure, will be appreciated. Quite an honest chat that we had. Thank our viewers also, for having joined us. Sunil, Amit, Rushi, thank you very much. Hope to have you guys back soon on another show. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Satish.
Cheers.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.